Independent living. Why is accessible infrastructure still a problem? Imagine trying to get around your neighborhood but constantly hitting barriers that make movement difficult or unsafe. That's the reality for many people with disabilities today. Despite decades of advocacy and progress, accessible infrastructure remains a challenge in many places. Accessible infrastructure means designing public spaces, transportation, and buildings so that everyone can use them safely and independently. This includes curb ramps for wheelchairs, tactile paving for those with vision impairments, audible signals at crosswalks, elevators in buildings, and accessible buses and trains. These features are essential for people to move freely and participate fully in daily life. However, many cities still have a patchwork of accessible and inaccessible elements. For example, you might find a curb ramp on one side of the street but not the other. Or sidewalks may be uneven or blocked by parked cars, making navigation dangerous. This inconsistency forces people with disabilities to take longer routes or relying on others for help, limiting their independence. One reason for this problem is that many infrastructure projects are built without considering accessibility from the start. Planners and officials often lack awareness of what is needed or follow outdated standards. This results in incomplete or poorly designed features that don't serve everyone well. Funding is another big issue. Making infrastructure accessible costs money, and many local governments have limited budgets. They prioritize other projects, leaving accessibility improvements for later or neglecting them altogether. When funds are available, they may only cover partial upgrades, leaving gaps in accessibility. Policies and laws exist to promote accessibility, but enforcement can be weak. Sometimes standards are outdated, or there's no follow-up to ensure compliance. Without proper oversight, inaccessible features remains in place, and progress stalls. Social attitudes also play a role. Negative stereotypes and stigma about disability can reduce community support for accessibility efforts. If people don't see disability as a priority, little gets done. This is especially true in low-income neighborhoods where infrastructure is older and less maintained. People living there often face even more barriers, which deepens social and economic divides. Technology can help, but it's not a cure-all. Some assistive devices need reliable power or specific environmental conditions, which are not always available. This limits how effectively people can use their devices in certain areas. All these issues mean that many individuals cannot fully participate in work, education, healthcare, or social activities without obstacles. Lack of accessible infrastructure increases dependence on others and can cause safety risks and emotional stress. To improve the situation, more funding is needed for accessibility projects and ongoing maintenance. Training planners and engineers on universal design principles can make a big difference. Including people with disabilities in planning ensures that infrastructure truly meets their needs. Raising awareness and fighting stigma helps build community support. Updating policies regularly to reflect new standards and technologies is also vital. Collecting detailed data on disability can guide targeted improvements. The goal of the independent living movement is to give people with disabilities the same freedom and control over their lives as everyone else. Without accessible infrastructure, that goal remains out of reach for many. Making our communities more accessible is not just about buildings and sidewalks. It's about creating a world where everyone can live independently and with dignity.